Hi grade 9s and 10s. I wanted to go over with you a couple of poems that we are going to be studying. This isn't due for a few weeks, but I wanted to put it on your radar before you finish up your essay so that you know what's coming next. So you have until next Tuesday to finish your Macbeth essay. So it's not a long time, so you should definitely be working on that now. But even if you haven't done anything, you can get it done. So don't stress about it, but you should be working on that now. So we are going to look at two poems. I'm going to read them to you, and I'm going to tell you what is on the assignment that you have to do for them. So this isn't a major assignment. The Macbeth essay is a major assignment, but this one is a small last unit assignment. Okay, so with poetry, we did a little bit of poetry at the beginning of the semester, and we looked at a few different literary terms. So some different techniques that poets use in their poetry to make their poems sound good, to sound interesting, and also to pack a lot of meaning into the poems. So we are going to look at a few different words and also the two poems. So one type of term we're looking at is alliteration. Alliteration is when a poet uses words that begin with the same sound or the same letter close to each other so that it sounds really nice. So here's an example from the first poem that we're studying, which is called The Lamb, and in the poem it says, "Little lamb who made thee." And so the repetition of L, little lamb, sounds really nice. So that's an example of alliteration. The second one is rhyme, and I think that's probably the one that everyone is familiar with. So rhyme is when you have words that end with the same sort of sound. So it's a bit the opposite of alliteration. Alliteration, the words start with the same sound, and rhyme, they end with the same sounds, and it sounds nice, like cat, hat. So that's an example from Dr. Seuss, The Cat in the Hat. Okay, and then the next one is beat. So in a song there's a beat, like that's the drums make the beat, and in a poem the words make a certain beat or a certain rhythm. And when I read The Lamb and the Tyger, you will see that they have very different rhythm, and it's all based on the words. And there's rhymes, but that's not the only thing that makes the poems flow in a certain way. So it's also the beat, so you can see how that goes. There's allusion. That's different. It's not illusion, which is like magic tricks. Allusion is when a poet refers or a writer refers to something outside of the poem that they assume you are going to know what they're talking about. And it's a lot like an inside joke that you'll have with your friends, where you can just make some kind of comment, or you'll say like, "Remember last summer?" and everyone knows what you're talking about, or all your friends know what you're talking about. So a poet or a writer might refer to something else, like maybe something from the Bible or something from Greek mythology or another poem, and the reader knows what they're referring to, or the author hopes that you know what they're referring to. And it packs a lot of meaning into one small word. And there's actually an example in the Tyger that's alluding to the lamb. So there's an example of allusion in the Tyger, and William Blake is referring back to his own poem. So you'll see that. There is imagery in both of the poetry. So imagery is how the poet makes you feel and see the things that they want you to feel and see. So the way they describe snow falling, or how they can make you feel hot just by the description of the weather in their poem. That is imagery. And then finally there's mood. So a poet can make you feel a certain way. They can make a mood of peacefulness or anxiety or fear just by the words that they use. So those are some of the things that William Blake has packed into his poems. And for the assignment, you'll have to look those words up and write those definitions out for me and find examples in the poems of those things. Okay, and then the other questions that are going to be on the assignment is, okay, so you read the two poems, and then what is similar and different about the two poems? You'll answer which of the two poems do you like more and why. And that's obviously, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you do need to refer to the poems and explain what you like about the poem you chose. And then the last question is, what do these poems suggest about God's character? So there's subtle references to God in both of these poems, and looking at the lamb or looking at the tiger, what do these poems say about God? What does it suggest that God's personality is like? So those are the questions. Now I'm going to read you the poems. So I have memorized the lamb in the past. I'm not sure if I have it memorized still, but I will read it to you here. So you can follow along. I have a Google Doc posted on Google Classrooms, or you can just listen. And if you're not sure how to analyze a poem, one way you can do it is to listen to someone else read it yourself, read it yourself again. You can look up online and have someone else read it as well. And the more you just kind of listen to it and feel the poem, and then start looking at what do things mean, then it will help you start to understand it. Okay, The Lamb by William Blake. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Gave thee life and bid thee feed by the stream and o'er the mead, gave thee clothing of delight, softest clothing, woolly bright, gave thee such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Little lamb, I'll tell thee. Little lamb, I'll tell thee. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. He is meek and he is mild. He became a little child. I a child and thou a lamb. We are called by his name. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. Okay, and so in this poem, the narrator, or the person speaking in the poem, is a little boy, and he is talking to a lamb, and he's asking the lamb questions, and he's saying, do you know who made you? Who gave you a nice grassy meadow to eat in, and a nice stream to drink from, and gave you such beautiful woolly clothing, and gave you such a sweet voice? Do you know who made you? And then he says, I'll tell you. And this is one of those allusions, and he's referring to God and in the form of Jesus, and he says, he's called by your name because he was a lamb. Jesus was the Lamb of God, and he was meek and mild, and he became a little child because he was born into the world as a child. And I'm a child, and you're a lamb, so we are both called by God's name. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. So this is a very, very, very sweet poem. And this is in the part of the poetry book that Blake wrote called Songs of Innocence. And so it's very, very innocent and very sweet. And then he also wrote the next poem called The Tyger. And this is supposed to be a pair to the lamb. And he wrote it in this section of poetry called Songs of Experience. So it's, in some ways, it's the opposite of the little lamb, but it's not. There are a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. Okay, so I will read The Tyger, and you can see. I think you'll see right away how different the beat in this one sounds. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night. What immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? So you can tell that this has quite a different feel. So the Lamb was a very peaceful, gentle poem, and this one is very boom, 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 boom. So the beat gives it an intensity and a sense of fear. And then if you look through a lot of the images here are much more fear generating than the Lamb was. So in this one you see words like night, burning, twist, sinews, dread, hand, heart beating, hammer, brain, chain, anvil, terrors, and spears. So there's a lot of like violent references or things referring to nighttime or fire. And so that's quite different when you look back to the Lamb and you see things like meadow and stream and delight and woolly and veils and lamb. So very different feel. Okay, so those are the two poems. So you can read over those yourself again and then be thinking about how you want to answer the questions. Again, there's no rush on getting this done. This isn't due until June 11th, but you could get this done pretty quickly, or you can wait until you have your essay done if you prefer to do that. So let me know if you have any questions, and yeah, I'd be happy to do a Zoom call with you or whatever you need. So great. Thanks for watching.